sometimes bump up against what people think you shouldn't do and go with what is feeling good to you and bringing you joy and, really highlighting the things that matter to you.
Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast. I'm Kim Skorupski here at Hopkins. I'm looking at our lovely super genius, Dr. Namandjé Bumpus. Namandjé, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks a lot for having me, Kim.
Well, friends, Namandjé Bumpus is one of these selfless people who I remember when I first came to Hopkins 9 years ago. I started these groups, basic research investigator groups, clinical research investigator groups. And when I asked Dr. Bumpus, because of her reputation preceded her, if she would come and talk to our group about how to get funded and get the R01, she was yes. And she gave so much great advice to our early career faculty. And lo and behold, here and I'm now looking at Dr. Bumpus, who is a professor and an endowed chair, the director of pharmacology and molecular sciences here at Hopkins. Namandjé does stuff I don't come close to understanding, drug metabolism, mass spectrometry, blah, 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 all this crazy smart stuff that is beyond my capacity to understand. But Dr. Bumpus, you are here today to talk about something that is so important and so many listeners will love. That is how to navigate the junior faculty years. I know people are going to be loving this. So let me just please ask you to clarify or say anything more about your role here at Hopkins, maybe your journey here, what you're doing, and then just kind of lead us off into how do we navigate these important formative years.
Yeah, so I'm a so-called basic scientist. So I run a laboratory, and that's primarily what we do, and we're really interested in pharmacology and biochemistry and those types of things. And I've been here for almost 12 years. I came here straight out of my postdoc as an assistant professor, had done an international faculty search, and just found such a connection here for my research. There'd be lots of collaborators and just some interest in the types of things that I was doing. And as I've been here, I've increasingly taken on various leadership roles. I had a graduate student and diversity-focused leadership role, and then kind of a research basic science in general around medical school, especially focusing on folks in clinical departments. And now I'm a department chair, or as we call it here, department director. And it's been a quick path in many ways, but I think that I've tried to be very systematic, I guess, at each stage. And so it would be great. And I love to have the opportunity to talk with folks about kind of what I've done and what I've learned. There are many ways to do it. It really comes down to, your individual interests and goals and just finding the best path that works for you.
Thank you. I would love it. I know so many faculty members, the challenge that we see, Namandjé, as you know, through the Office of Faculty Development, we do all these leadership programs and seminars and workshops, is that when we come into our first real career job placement, we're in that mode of, hammering through the required checklist for the MD, for the PhD, the dissertation, the postdoc, the residency, the fellowship, the internship, all those kind of things that we check. And then we get there and we're like, okay, now I'm here. And a lot of early career faculty members kind of stand there and go, well, now what? Who's going to tell me what to do? I know I got to just do research and get grants and see patients and build my clinical practice. But a lot of people, I think, we kind of get a little bit of that frozen kind of thing of, well, is somebody going to tell me what I'm supposed to do? How do I figure out what I'm going to do? And how do I navigate this huge culture? And I don't know anybody and I don't want to make a mistake. And so I can't wait to hear all the juicy advice you're going to give us.
Yeah, so I think definitely with that kind of getting started, a couple of things. One, we talk about mentors, definitely a team of mentors, a diverse group of folks. So it's great, to have your department chair and build a relationship with that person, as you should, but also looking outside and thinking about people across career stages. So certainly senior, very accomplished people. If there's a leadership role that you think at one day could feel interesting, maybe it's someone in a leadership role who's not, a scientist or a physician like you are, maybe who has been, on kind of that leadership track for a long time and is focused more in that area. And also people, forget sometimes near peers or even just peer group, that it's important to build those relationships with the people who will be your colleagues, hopefully for decades, and where you can support each other and get feedback on the way that things are working, get feedback on who the really supportive senior faculty are, what the good programming and resources are. So I think you want to definitely make connections with people that have been there and been successful, but make sure that you get to know people in your peer group as well. You may have to look outside your department. Maybe you're the most junior person in your department or division, and that's fine. You certainly can reach out to folks in other places. When you go to orientation, you can make friends there. There are people I met at orientation. We exchanged information, have remained friends. That's very useful. And making sure even, in those early stages, when you're hearing from, the faculty development office, or, you're hearing from the different research offices, you can reach out to those people and, just schedule time to talk to them. People really do like to meet junior faculty and want to help junior faculty. And so you will find that no matter how busy you think this person is, most often they will make time to see you and to talk to you. And it's really good for people to know who you are and to get those perspectives. But one thing I think that's been really, central for me, and I try to always remember, you're going to get a lot of advice, but you definitely still need to think about forming and following your own vision for yourself and your career, because you'll find people, they know you some, they know what you've done. They don't fully understand your aspirations and all of your abilities. And sometimes they will form opinions, based on their limited knowledge of what they think you're capable of or where they think you'd make the best contribution. At every stage, I've always had people say that they didn't think I'd make it to, the dean's office. They didn't think I'd make it to a department chair, or maybe I would, but it'd be 30 years from now or whatever it is. And I always had to stay true to the things I knew that I wanted to be able to do and accomplish to really contribute to the academic community and to my institution, and identify mentors who would be honest with me, but would also be supportive of the things that I knew that I really wanted to do. So, that was my research and scholarship, certainly, and also the contributions I wanted to make as a leader, identifying people that, even if it's not the path they took, that were going to be constructive about helping me get there and figuring out the way to get there, as opposed to telling me, oh, this doesn't happen because it's never happened before. So being true to your vision, even if it seems weird to other people, and then identifying people that are going to constructively help you identify the steps to get where you want to go.
Oh, Namandjé, that's so, thank you so much for that honesty and just kind of laying it all open there, because so many of us have non-traditional paths. And so many faculty members say, well, I'm not quite like anybody else. And I say, you're right, you're not. And there's some little bit of sometimes I feel like faculty members feel that they are somehow, they're not quite right because they don't look like everybody else, or they don't have the same thoughts or aspirations. So reminding ourselves and each other that, listen, you do you. Certainly there are parameters and there are boundaries and there are the lanes and at the bowling alley to make sure we don't go in the gutter. There's certainly, but those confidence intervals can be broader than we think. And I love how you said, a little bit of grace and mercy to our mentors who would maybe do a quick run through of the CV or know us by what we do in the lab or in the clinic. But if we're not being honest and sharing, well, Dr. Bumpus, I like this, that, and the other. But when I start talking to you and I'm honest but my heart soars when I'm teaching, and then my eyes light up and I get animated, that if I don't share that with you, you don't see that part of me. So of course you're only going to mentor me for the things that you see. Your lens is only like in front of you. So I think it goes both ways. We have to be honest with our mentors and our peers and do the hard work of figuring out, well, what is it I want to do? And stop trying to live in some mold that somebody says we should live in, and not being ashamed of the fact that we're different. I'm a sociologist, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. A sociologist as a dean in the School of Medicine at Hopkins. Mm-hmm. Everybody told me when I was younger, you'll never do anything with that degree. What are you going to do with that degree?
Exactly. There's a lot of that because people are coming from, their own experience of what they've seen or have never seen, their own biases, or even their own, trepidation. Would I be able to do it? Would I be able to break that mold? And I think, people do the best they can, and certainly everyone means well. But I think that, part of your journey is really identifying what, like you said, brings you joy, where you want to contribute, and then letting that really guide you and feeling okay that maybe it is different. There have been decisions that I've made all along that people have said, that's never going to get you anywhere. When I was an assistant professor, I became a member of an NIH study section, where we're reviewing grants. Everyone says, don't do that as an assistant professor. And maybe it's not right for everyone. But for me, it was something I really enjoyed. It made me better, but also I was just happy in that setting of spending a whole day talking about science with people. And so it felt like this is something that brings me personally joy. So it's worth doing. And so even though people said, but it's not going to get you where it's not, it was about filling me up. And I think it did get me somewhere, because I think it helped hone not only my skills as far as thinking about, okay, how do you write a grant, but how do I communicate how can I persuasively communicate my ideas with my peers or even people who are far senior to me, developing my leadership skills. I became chair of that section at a relatively young career stage. And I think that all of that has helped build me to where I am as far as leading my lab, mentoring my students, giving advice to junior faculty, leading a department. All of those things come together. Everyone can't always see it. But you have to really be willing, as I said, to kind of, sometimes bump up against what people think you shouldn't do and go with what is feeling good to you and bringing you joy and, really highlighting the things that matter to you.
Good. Thank you. I love it. Kind of amplify when you were talking about Nearpeers, that I've never heard that phrase, but it made me think of even outside of the institution at the professional societies, peers and colleagues, and networking and forcing yourself, if it's not in your nature, to network and build relationships with peers at other institutions, because they may be just a tick above you in their career, maybe getting promoted just a minute ahead of you, and they could be perhaps writing your letters of recommendation.
Yes.
And then we also learn not only how they succeed, but how they fail. And then we learn, oh my gosh, I got to make sure I don't ever do that. So that's where it's safe to me to also learn lessons from my peers. But yeah, I love that near peer thing. So we talk about team of mentors and diverse mentoring and getting advice, but grounding that advice and filtering it through our vision. Anything else you'd like to share about?
Well, you just brought up a great point, the external relationship building. So that is also critical. So, 4-year promotion, obviously one thing, they're going to ask for these external letters, and you need people in your area who can say that they know your work, or even that they've seen you give talks, that they know you. So scientific society, very important. So I say get engaged. Certainly you should be a member of the societies that are important in your field, but volunteer for a committee. So for instance, emailing, the president or the executive director, just saying, this is who I am. I'd really like to get involved. Societies always need volunteers for things. Mm-hmm. And that really helps you start to get embedded in your field. You get this broader support network for when, times get hard. And you also get that visibility, as I mentioned. So whether it's letters for promotion, whether you're going for funding, like going to get a grant funded, now you have more people in your field who know who you are. They've worked with you. They have, positive feelings. We're human beings. Like certainly your grant review is about the science, but if people have a positive feeling about you, it only helps. So, and so really building those relationships is important. One thing that I did to try to get to know some of the very senior people in my area of research was invite them to give seminars. Mm-hmm. I think people don't realize how strategic you can be about your seminar invitation. So every department, or division will have a seminar series, and they're looking for people, or grand rounds, whatever it's called at your institution or your department. And they're always looking for speakers. So you volunteering to host someone is a great opportunity, because now this is someone you get to spend time with. So if it's some, luminary in your field that you really would love to just sit down and talk with about your work and your ideas, this is an opportunity to do that, where you invite this person, they come. People most often will say yes when they're invited by junior faculty. And you really get an opportunity to spend time with them and talk to them. There's so many leaders in my field that I got to know through those visits. And not only were they future letter writers or people to collaborate on grants, just people to give me feedback when I'm trying to navigate things and figure out what I'm doing. So I think that the seminar piece is something that people don't tap enough, that really can be important in helping to move you forward. It's such a simple thing, but it can go a long way.
Well, Namandjé, you're saying something that I when I was early career, I never would have thought that it would have been my privilege, that I would have the power to do that. First of all, invite somebody who was like famous in my field. And then I guess I would have thought, well, don't the leaders do that? The directors, the department chair people do that? Who am I to do something so high level as to invite somebody famous? And then furthermore, why would this famous person care about me, a nobody in my field? So you just taught me two important things that we have to realize. My gosh, you're taking a burden sometimes off of other people's backs if you can help fill the calendars for these opportunities at our home institutions. And if it's somebody more junior, you're helping them fill their CV with invited opportunities. And then there's possibly an exchange, a quid pro quo. If you invite them, say, may I in turn, I'd love the opportunity to come to your institution. And I love that strategic component of, because you're hosting, you get to, back in the old days, pick them up from the airport. If you take them to breakfast, you take them to lunch, you walk them down the hallways, you're bending their ear, and wow, talk about free coaching and mentoring and advice. And yeah, that is genius.
Yeah. And you foster those relationships. So, you invite them, you spend that time with them, you have a conversation, you make sure at the next time of the conference, now you know them. Email them, would you like to have coffee or tea or lunch, at some time. When you publish the paper, you were telling them about the work you were doing in your lab or the clinical study you were doing. When you publish that paper, you send it to them. This paper is now published. And actually, these are people you can also list as potential reviewers for your papers as well, right? So this, people talk about networking. It's more than just going to a reception and, talking to people and, mingling. It's really building these connections and building these relationships. And, there are lots of ways to do it that will help you grow, make your scholarship better. Maybe also this person gets some great ideas too. I mean, these visits are beneficial on both sides and just helps you become more embedded in this greater kind of, academic enterprise that, is only valuable for you as you're trying to progress.
Oh, I love it. Great advice. Great advice.
So the other thing I would say, and I'm sure this has come up on your podcast before, but kind of this work-life balance thing. So I get asked a lot about work-life balance with COVID. How do you do it? And, for me, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I have small children and I'm a department chair and all the other things. So what I say is that a long time ago, feels like a long time ago, just when I was assistant professor, I kind of gave up using that term because I feel that language is thought, right? And the things that we say really impact how we feel. And I thought my work is part of my life. It's not antagonistic to my life. Why do I have this hyphen? They're not competing priorities. It really is part of who I am and part of my being and part of what gives my life fulfillment. And when I started thinking that way, I think more about my broad productivity. So any given day or given week, I'm trying to just spend a certain amount of hours being productive. And sometimes that productivity might mean I'm doing something that's not academic and it's related to, my family, my household. But when I think about productivity and that being productive too, because this is just the totality of my life, I give myself more grace, more forgiveness for these different things that we all have to do that are parts of who we are. It takes time, definitely. And I don't think that I'm a completely imbalanced person. I definitely still check email in the middle of the night and all those things that we probably shouldn't do. But I think that if we start thinking of it as productivity and whatever being productive means to me today, then you give yourself more space, kind of just to think about how everything goes together. Now, someone will say, yeah, but how does that get me promoted? So there are things that I do to protect my time that I think that are really key, especially for assistant professors. So I think you have to be very disciplined and systematic about your time and, your calendars. So I always blocked out an hour every day, still do, for writing and reading. where an hour every day, it's untouchable. No one, I'm not going to meet. It doesn't matter. Like, this is my time to read and write. It's easy to let people pull on you and say, but this meeting's important. It's almost never that important. You can find other times for things. What is important is feeding your soul as far as your scholarship and making sure that you keep your scholarship going. Certainly, if you're on this academic path, that's what you need to continue on the path. And even for me as a chair, that scholarship piece is still important to my ability to move my department forward to help my junior faculty. So I have to prioritize it still. So an hour a day where you just read and write. Then giving yourself 2 hours at the end of the day. That's your, work on special projects, answer your emails. That way, if you found yourself in meetings all day, it's not that now it's 10 p.m., 11 p.m., I'm just getting to my email, because you still do need your rest. That's important. That's part of your productivity. And so giving yourself time every day to do little projects, little wrap-ups you need, and to get to all your email for the day. As an assistant professor, it should also be possible to give yourself one full day a week that you don't have meetings, where that day is just your, research day. You meet with people that work with you on your research, whether it's students or fellows or staff. You do your reading, those types of things. It feels difficult. I talk to people about this all the time. I say, but there's, so many meeting requests. You have to find a way to stick to that. Give yourself that time. That's really what protecting your time means. And people move around it. The meeting can happen the next day. It's okay. Everything is going to be okay and work out that way. And I think kind of the last thing, you're taking on commitments. So especially when you're new, people want you for every committee. You must be on this admissions committee. We need you for this. It is great that people are excited to have you there as a junior faculty member, and they want your service. It's wonderful, and it makes you feel good, and you certainly have a lot to contribute to the institution. But at the same time, the way that you are able to have the biggest impact is through your success rate. So what I say is take 48 hours to respond to any request for committee service, even if it's like the most amazing person at your institution that you're so, you look up to their career so much, and it's, wow, this person emailed me, it's such an honor. Still give yourself time to process it. They will be okay. They take time, I'm sure, to respond to requests too. Have mentors that you screen and run these things by. So I have assistant professors at Hopkins and elsewhere that send me every request, no matter how big or how small. Should I do this? Should I give this talk here? Should I do this service? And we talk about it. And so when you do that, one, you're getting someone else's feedback about, I think this will be a lot of time. And it's not what you've talked about excites you or brings you joy. We talked about service based on joy, for instance. And in addition, it's someone to help check kind of how things are building up so that you're not buried under your service, right? So having someone that's going to help you go through and look at those things is important. And what I do with my mentees is we develop criteria for saying yes or no to things that we stick to, much like you would if you were working with a career coach. What are your criteria? Okay. Will you enjoy it? Is it going to bring you joy? These are the type of things that bring you joy. Is this one of those types of things? That's one criteria. Time commitment. Okay, that's one. And really try to make decisions in a systematic and scientific way, because you just have to at this stage. You can be more flexible later, even though you have more requests, but you just have to, because your success is really important. You wanted to be an academic for a reason, and you really have the right and also need to embrace this opportunity to really fulfill that.
So, Dr. Bumpus, you are empowering your junior faculty members and mentees around the country that you mentor. You are empowering them to say no. So, because I see faculty members, especially early career, who they want to be the good neighbor. They want to be the good team player. And, I'm allowed to say no to this. This is famous person XYZ just asked me that. I didn't know no was an option. So what you're telling me is that you are empowering junior faculty members to, again, like you said, cool your jets, take that 8 hours, talk. Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Bumpus. I appreciate the opportunity. Let me think about that. I'm going to talk with my mentor, my mentoring team about that. And I promise to get back with you within the next hours. That kind of removes you physically from the excitement or the dread of the opportunity and then helps you, as you said, you have this fantastic checklist to be rational, thoughtful, and get advice about, is this like, for how long is this going to be? Are there resources? What kind of time? Will it bring me joy? And knowing probably that there's some things that we can or should do. There's an expectation, but I love how you've kind of flipped that on its head and made sure I hope early career faculty members are hearing this, that you can say no. You are not required or obligated to say yes to everything somebody throws you in. Sometimes it's veiled as being a great opportunity when in fact it's not so much a great opportunity, and you don't want to get hoodwinked into thinking, well, I better do it, otherwise I'm going to be labeled as one of those selfish people.
And people who are asking you, said well-meaning and excited about you, they don't understand, as they can't, the totality of all the things you're doing, all the things that you're managing. So they're asking you this one thing that's important to them. And it sounds like, oh, well, it's just, 2 hours a month. Yeah. They don't know if you have 50 things that are 2 hours a month, it adds up. So that becomes kind of part of your responsibility. Your mentors can help you navigate that to really, build that time and lead with your scholarship. What I always say, a couple of things. One, there are always people looking for opportunities, for talks, for service. So when you say no, there's someone else who can be asked who may really be able to utilize having a service opportunity, who might be really excited and be joyful about that thing. So other people are always identified. You do not need to feel like if you say no now, the whole task force can't happen. Right. So always make someone else. And I think also, along with that, as you continue to prosper, there are going to be more and more opportunities that come your way, and more opportunities to contribute in these ways and participate and be a good neighbor. So your focus on yourself, your success is not selfish in that in academia, we're also intertwined. So your success does propel other people in many different ways, especially when you're now getting, even more impactful potential service opportunities.
Yeah, that's another important point, Namandjé, that sometimes we maybe mistakenly believe that, well, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. If I say no now, I'll never be asked again. I'm going to be labeled as a troublemaker. I'm not a team player, and I'm going to have some negative repercussions. All these kind of ticker tape beliefs that we have that are good to vet with our mentors. But I like how you're saying, we have to find some courage here to reflect on our mission, our vision, rely on the people who have been in the institution a while, and what feels good, and going with some element of instinct. Before I forget, you said something else that was really important with your third point, around productivity. I love, Namandjé, how you say, even as a department chair, you schedule an hour a day. So not only is that good for you, because as a scientist, that is your obligation, that is your job, is to think deeply about things and to be productive, and scholarly, productive, but you're also setting a good example. If everyone else, your peers, your junior faculty members, your staff, see that you have established these really good, healthy academic practices and habits, and they learn that you really hold those sacred and you don't just play loosey-goosey with them, that sets up a cultural expectation. And I'm doing it for me. I expect you're doing it for you as well. So that what's important is not only for ourselves, but it's also setting examples for our trainees. So it's not only like, well, I'm just doing this for me. I kind of feel selfish and this feels awkward to me. No, it's important for you, yes. And you're also setting a precedent for expectations of the culture in your division, your lab, your office, your clinic. And then you're helping other people coming up behind you say, no, this is how it gets done. I have to prioritize this stuff. So kudos to you for sticking
and along those lines of, being a department chair and doing that, your department chair is a great resource in helping you navigate these things. So, hopefully you have a great relationship, you built that, you are meeting with them at least quarterly, you or your division chief, you are sending them, news of your papers and your posters being accepted and review talks. Keep people posted. It feels like self-promotion, but people want to know what you're up to and what you're doing, and they really have no other way besides you telling them. So let people know, share this good news. At our faculty meetings, we actually have a good news announcement section that we started so that we can all just stay abreast of what's happening. Did your student, just get an award? But so give that information. But your department chair can tell people on your behalf that you are not able to take on a service opportunity. So sometimes it does feel politically difficult, especially as this professor, to say no to something. But if you talk with your department chair about, look, these are the service things coming my way, this is my bandwidth I have, I cannot do these things. Hopefully they offer and volunteer to decline some on your behalf. But if they don't, I would just ask either, do you have strategies that you think I should use to decline this? Or would you be willing to help me with declining this? That is part of what they should be helping me navigate. So I all the time tell faculty mentees, blame it on me. Say that, I am not allowing you to do any more committees. And that person can help. They can actually say, this person is new. I protected them from service for the first year. So unfortunately, they can't do it at this time. People receive that and understand. They want you to do well. And often they're just like, oh yeah, I forgot how new they are, or, something like that. So don't be afraid to speak up. And the other thing, Kim mentioned that, new opportunities coming. And I said that too. And it's true. I tell my mentees, look, there's always another train coming. It's never late. Like, you turn down a committee that seemed like the once in a lifetime. I guarantee you there's always another train coming. And the further you go, the more of them there are going to be.
That's right. Success begets success. I love it. Oh, Namandjé, super good.
Those are my kind of primary things that I try to focus on and to center, for myself and my mentees, definitely.
Well, it clearly works, and you are definitely an example of success. And I thank you so much for being so honest and for setting such a good example for us and for giving some real, just candid advice. And it sounds like the theme of the day is just empowering early career faculty members, inspiring them to be courageous and to also know that you're not alone, that there's just so many people who want to help you, who are rooting for you. And it's all good.
And it's hard, but you can do it. You just try to, over time, get stronger and stronger, more and more comfortable with, making sure that you're shaping your career the way that's most reflective of who you are and, where you'd like to go.
Dr. Namandjé Bumpus, thank you so much. I know the audience has appreciated your wisdom today. And if you want to be on the Faculty Factory podcast, just email me at facultyfactorykim@gmail.com. Look for Dr. Bumpus and all her information on the facultyfactory.org website. I'm sure you'd be in really good stead if you'd email her, and she would be happy to get back with you at Hopkins. And till the next time, we'll see you on the Faculty Factory podcast. Bye, everybody. Bye, Namandjé.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. The mission of the Faculty Factory is to build and support a community of leaders in faculty development who share tools, resources, wisdom, and encouragement in service to our faculty members, schools, and institutions. We encourage you to go to facultyfactory.org to find out more. Get in touch with me, ask me any questions. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to Faculty Factory Podcast. We'll see you next time. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine Office of Faculty. For more information, visit facultyfactory.org.